Welcome, climate viewers. My name is Jim Lee from ClimateViewer News. It is March 26, 2017, and I've got a lot of requests from people to tell you about this one. So David Keith and his geoengineering friends, lobbyists I like to call them, have decided they would like to do some geoengineering experiments outside. And they're going to do it down in Tucson, Arizona, and they plan on doing it next year. So two articles that have come up today or in the last 2 days. One over here on MIT Technology Review, Harvard scientists moving ahead on plans for atmospheric geoengineering experiments. One over here on The Guardian, U.S. scientists launch world's biggest solar geoengineering study. Now, this is not new news to me. I know everybody's really excited about this. I've seen this coming for quite a while, and I'm going to show you why, because there's a lot of backstory to this that you're not going to get anywhere else. So that's why I'm going to break it down for you right now. So what's going on? These guys are trying to say that in the future, global warming, is obviously going to kill us, and we need to study ways to cool the planet by mimicking volcanoes. So they want to spray chemicals in the sky to block sunlight to reflect it back to space. This is called solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, albedo modification, cloud brightening, cloud whitening, marine cloud brightening. It has many different titles, but the general idea is spray chemicals in the sky, block sunlight, reflect sunlight, cool planet. This has a lot of serious implications. We're going to go into them very quickly. I don't want to make this a very long video, but I do have a lot to cover, so buckle your seatbelts. In this article, they go through telling you about how David Keith and this guy, Frank Koich, I think it's pronounced, hope to launch a high-altitude balloon tethered to a gondola equipped with propellers and sensors from a site in Tucson. After initial engineering test, the StratoCruiser, you always got to keep up with these terms, makes it easy to find out stuff about them, would spray fine mist of materials such as sulfur dioxide, alumina, or calcium carbonate into the stratosphere. The sensors would then measure the reflectivity of the particles, the degree to which they disperse or coalesce, and the way they interact with other compounds in the atmosphere. It says the researchers first proposed this balloon experiment in 2014 paper, but the Geoengineering Conference in Washington, D.C. on Friday, Keith said that they have begun engineering design work with an Arizona test balloon company, Worldview Enterprises. They have also started discussions about the appropriate governance structure for such an experiment and the plan to set up an independent body to review their proposals. We would like to have our first flights next year, said the Forum on U.S. Solar Geoengineering Research held at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And then they go into some of the details of that, and basically something you guys might find fascinating down here at the bottom, they say, well, this has happened before, the E-Peace experiment in 2011, and some Russian dudes back in 2009, sprayed some stuff out of a helicopter. And then, of course, there was the SPICE experiment, the stratospheric particle injection for climate engineering experiment over in the UK, which was quickly scuttled by the etc. group, ETC group. Shout out to the boys over there. So when this happened in the past in the UK, they were going to fly a balloon in the sky and spray some chemicals. The etc. group was the only group that I know of that, and I think it was Hands Off Mother Earth Home. They, took it to them and they shut it down, and it never happened. So there's your first clue of what to do about this. I would contact the ETC group, Pat Mooney, and what's the other guy's name? Jim Thomas. Jim Thomas, I've talked to him on the phone. I actually got their World of Geoengineering spreadsheet and made a map out of it back in 2013, something like that. So, etc. group, I highly recommend them. They dealt with the SPICE program that got shut down, And it also says that, you know, they got their private funds in this paper here, in this article, program. Let's skip that part. As part of the press time, it raised more than $7 million from Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, the Hewlett Foundation, and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. I hear that all the time on NPR. Funded by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. I don't know who they are, but apparently they're cool with geoengineering, spraying chemicals to block sunlight. Now, everybody goes, Bill Gates. Oh, my God. What has Bill Gates got to do with this? Bill Gates, because I want everybody to understand this part. Bill Gates has a fund called FICER, F-I-C-E-R. I'm going to show it to you before the end of this video. You're going to see it. And he puts money in this basket and says, if you want to study geoengineering, you've got to talk to David Keith or Ken Caldera. They're my boys. And these two will determine whether or not you get funding from me. That's why all you guys, you know, who are listening to this broadcast, going to see this video. That's why you hear about David Keith and Ken Caldera so much. Now, me and David Keith and Ken Caldera go quite a ways back. I've been arguing with Ken Caldera since 2012, as you're going to see before the end of this video. So let's move along. So the idea is Bill Gates, Hewlett Foundation, Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, paying money, David Keith, and a balloon company out in Arizona are going to do an experiment in Tucson next year. So let's get into that experiment. So this is back in 2014. Here's a paper. Harvard scientists say it's time to think about engineering the climate. And it says, wait, isn't that the plot of Snowpiercer? If you guys haven't seen Snowpiercer, they actually start the movie with shots of chemtrails, you know, planes making clouds. And it turns out that a geoengineering experiment goes horribly wrong and the whole world gets covered in ice and snow and everybody dies. And there's the only people left are on this freaking train. So, you know, pretty bad scenario, right? Well, that's how they start this right here. And, you know, this is talking about it back then. Well, this was, guess what? This was your StratoCruiser. So here's an actual shot of the StratoCruiser. And we're going to go in a couple more of those down here. There's your StratoCruiser. It's basically looks like something you'd land on Mars, and it's tethered to a balloon that flies up in the sky. And it's going to look pretty similar to this. This is actually a shot from the SPICE project. So this is the one that was in the UK. It's very similar. You have a blimp, you have a nozzle, there's a hose that goes all the way to the ground. They spray the chemicals from the balloon. Okay. So this is what got canceled in the UK, the SPICE program here. Don't know what the hell that, oh, there it is. They say the SPICE experiment. So that was the SPICE thing. I have not read any of these freaking articles, guys. I just know this stuff from memory. So you're going to have to follow along pretty quickly. So that's this thing. All right. So that's from 2014. I did all these searches 5 minutes before I started making this video. So hold on to your pants. This is from 2014. Also, scaling and testing geoengineering. And what you see right here at the start is some SRM proposals. And I wonder if I can get that up to a big size real quick. That would be great. Oh, nice. All right. So rebuffing radiation, how to block 3 experiments aimed to test the impact of geoengineering on solar radiation. Cloud brightening. This is a guy spraying salt crystals into the clouds from a plane. I don't know why they would do that, because the actual cloud brightening experiment comes from a boat. It's made by Stephen Salter and John Latham. It's called the Silver Lining Project, and it's now called the Marine Cloud Brightening Project. So anyway, salt crystals make clouds brighter, make them whiter, make sunlight go back. Scopex, which is the StratoCruiser, which is what we're talking about right now. It's called Scopex. We'll get into that in a minute, what that means. But this StratoCruiser is a tethered balloon with a spray thing, 20 kilometers up in the sky. Cirrus cloud thinning. Now, you guys who followed me on the whole chemtrail subject, this is about making chemtrails thinner. But, you know, in the science world, we call them cirrus clouds. So once a chemtrail, contrail, linear contrail becomes a persistent contrail and then turns into a cloud that is a cirrus cloud, these guys are talking about using bismuth triiodide to melt them to make them more transparent, allowing more reflective radiation to escape back into space so that they no longer heat up the planet by trapping radiation like a blanket. back to the story. So on this paper, you scroll down and you're going to see, here it is, the SCOPEX stratospheric controlled perturbation experiment. And I guess that's what it means right there, SCOPEX. Stratospheric controlled perturbation experiment. Yep, here it is. And here's some more shots of it. So there's your experiment that David Keith wants to do in Tucson next year. Here's another article on it, and this is in 2015. So is geoengineering research going outdoors? So this is not new news. And once again, there is the StratoCruiser spaceship balloon farting chemicals. All right, so that's the experiment. And here is something from the government. This is 2014. This is the paper, Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, SCOPEX, a small-scale experiment to improve understanding of risk of solar geoengineering. And here is Anderson Research Group on harvard.edu, StratoCruiser flight system. Their own page about it, where they brag about it, how it's going to work, and there's the photos. So this is the experiment. This is what David Keith's talking about. No more mysteries, no more fear porn from the internet. You know everything I know that they know about the damn StratoCruiser. So who's going to fly it? These balloon dudes. Worldview right here, and you can see that they do balloons that look like this, attached to boxes that look like this. So they're kind of a no-brainer for this job. They do research balloons, they do weather balloons, communication balloons, sticking cameras on balloons to take pictures for maps. You know, they're a balloon company, so they've obviously been contracted for this. No particular hate going their way, and they are based in Tucson, Arizona. So there you go. That's why they're there. They're at Aerospace Parkway in Tucson, Arizona. I don't know if they're going to launch this bad boy from their backyard, but that's something that somebody might want to tell me about, because I think that a fun little protest would probably be in order at that location, don't you think? So let's move along. Harvard Solar Geoengineering Research Program has this page up at geoengineering.environment.harvard.edu, where they basically have like a little advertisement for David Keith's idea here. And then they also had this live, broadcast from the forum on U.S. Solar Geoengineering Research, happened March 24th, 7 hours and 32 minutes long. It actually starts like 36 minutes in, and it goes on and on. And on. Hell, if I'm watching all that. Somebody watch it. Give me a report. I would love to know. So where does this whole geoengineering governance research start? It starts with this thing called Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative, srmgi.org. And basically they're trying to write global laws to say, hey, when we start this whole legal geoengineering thing, how do we pay the dead people? We're going to talk about dead people very shortly. This video is almost over with, but we're going to end with dead people. How do we pay the dead people? How do we pay the affected people? How do we manage who gets to make the decision about what the temperature of the planet will be? Who controls the controllers? So that's what these guys are supposedly asking these questions. But I would contend that they don't really care about the answers. This is an agenda to legalize geoengineering on a global scale, and it will push ahead regardless of what public opinion is. So we need to really keep that in mind and counteract that as soon as possible. And I suggest that, people like religious organizations, Republicans, people who just hate the whole climate change agenda, don't believe the CO2 hype, know about the sun and galactic cosmic rays and clouds and how they're bullshitting people about CO2. Those people should be involved in this fight, because once you allow David Keith and his boys to go ahead with their experiment and these global initiatives to continue, that's when we're going to have this slippery slope. So that's at the New Carnegie Climate Geoengineering Governance Project. Make sure you look up that stuff. And the reason why it's a problem, geoengineering could cause drought in Sahel here. And this is from 2013. And what they basically realize is that just like volcanoes, when you have large dispersals of sun blocking material in the sky, it affects rainfall worldwide. And that will kill people. So understand that if these jerks decide to go ahead with this and make this a future, option for dealing with global warming, at the very least, they will be choosing to kill people, as opposed to having climate change, which may kill people, or global warming, which may kill people. These scientists are actively deciding to pursue a technology that will kill people, and they will choose who gets killed and who gets paid, who the victims are. How do I know it? Because back in, let's see, what's the date on this thing? 2014. This is me on Ken Caldera's Geoengineering forum, debating some things. And basically there was this paper called A Quantitative Evaluation of the Public Response to Climate Engineering. And Andrew Locke is one of the moderators of Ken Caldera's forum. Okay. So the paper came out, and the paper basically said the public hates the idea of blocking sunlight. And I was in there clapping, and this is what I said. And this is dated January 14th, 2014. The abstract mirrors my personal opinions. I think they nailed it. I am firmly against any solution that involves creating more pollution. The chemtrail community is up in arms over what they think is geoengineering SRM, and will rightly tar and feather anyone who's willing to go on record as saying they want to spray the skies. The outrage, should SRM be deployed, will be tremendous, and I'll be there to lead that march. Thank you to this community for being so willing to openly discuss your research. I hope that we can focus on solutions like carbon dioxide removal and albedo enhancement, as long as it isn't, quote, used to steer hurricanes. Nudge, nudge. And this is why I say they don't give a damn what the public's opinion is. Ken Caldera responds, K. Caldera, right here. These sorts of studies are interesting, yet fundamentally anecdotal, meaning they don't really matter. I would imagine answers would differ greatly depending on how the questions were framed. It would be interesting to ask the question this way. So basically, even though the public response is, given very low level questions like, do you like the idea of spraying chemicals to block sunlight? People said, we hate the idea. Ken Caldera's response asked the question a different way. That should be a red flag for everybody out there. Ken Caldera is a lobbyist. He is not a unbiased individual in this. He is lobbying on behalf of this stuff. So it's something he wants to happen. Reason this is a problem is because all of this technology will be weaponized. It will be used to kill people in the future. If it is not used to kill people now, if they ever do legalize this regime where they can spray chemicals in the sky on a daily basis to regulate the global temperatures, that means that there will be individuals, people who have those controls, and those people will be able to kill people with it by controlling rainfall totals worldwide. Don't believe me? Even the CIA last year in February 2015 asked if somebody was steering, the weather over America, would we know it? The answer is no. So today we have no way to tell if somebody's modifying the climate to kill people, to hurt people, to modify and hurt crops, whatever. It's just not there. So I was looking at it, and this is weather modification history. And what you see is, this is on the timeline. I'm going to go back here real quick to two things. This is in 1978, 1976. NMOD, which happened as a result of Operation Popeye, where we did weather warfare over Vietnam. Oh, that's horrible looking. Let's do that again. And the reason we did it was to, there you go, thank you, soften road surfaces, cause landslides along roadways, wash out river crossings, maintain saturated soil conditions. And the only reason we even found out about it is because this reporter saw a memo on the president's desk. As a result, weather warfare was banned in 1978. It's called NMOD, the Environmental Modification Convention. What most people don't know is even though we did all that weather warfare over Vietnam, the CIA had something called Nile Blue. And what they were doing was using cloud seeding to make the rain go away to Cuba to dry up their sugar crops. Now, this is a situation where the CIA, which has no business modifying the weather, it was busted in 76 doing farm warfare against Cuba, and the author of The Cooling told us all about it. So if you think history can't repeat itself, you're freaking crazy. So that's why I say this stuff, this technology will be weaponized. In fact, I went to Arizona and I did an entire presentation on it. It was called Geoengineering, Weather Modification, and Weaponizing Nature. You can see that at ClimateViewer.com. It's on the sidebar of every page. I hope you guys will go there, watch the presentation. There's a video version of it as well as this PDF. But the point is this, you know, these guys are lobbyists. Ken Caldera, Alan Robach, Ben Kravitz, David Keith. David Keith is the guy we're talking about today. Funding comes from the National Science Foundation, NASA, Pfizer, Fund for Innovative Climate and Energy Research. That's Bill Gates' money right there. European Commission. These are the people paying for this, you know, geoengineering. There's the boat I told you about, the marine cloud brightening. The StratoShield is something that Bill Gates came up with. It's very similar in name to the StratoCruiser. It was called a hose to the sky. It's a blimp that sprays chemicals into the sky. It is owned by Intellectual Ventures, and that's what Bill Gates is doing. There's the SPICE program, and this is the quote that I want to leave you guys wrap up with. In other words, if the public comes to see geoengineering, as one attendee put it, a crazy idea cooked up by rich Anglo-Saxons to dominate the climate, then they will all be rightfully tarred and feathered. As for the U.S. Department of Defense, forget about it. To this group, such involvement prompts nightmares of new military-industrial geoengineering complex. I personally have that nightmare as well, because geoengineering SRM will kill people. There will be winners and losers. Even their own research papers say so. This is the Integrated Assessment of Geoengineering Proposals, which says the solar geoengineering led to serious side effects, reduced rainfall all over the semi-arid area south of the Sahara Desert. Basically, they killed a whole bunch of black people in Africa because they didn't have any rain anymore. Oh, poor Africa. They always get shit on. So this is the future. Winners and losers in the water war. They'll say it's about sunlight. It affects rainfall. If it affects rainfall, it is weather modification on a global scale. There are weather modification laws that they are ignoring by calling this geoengineering, even though it's weather modification. So that's my point, and I'm sticking to it. You guys know what I know now, and I hope that you guys will come over to weathermodificationhistory.com, get educated on this stuff quickly. My suggestion about what to do about this, and I'm going to end with that. You guys really got to take this stuff seriously. Once they're allowed to go ahead with these field experiments, once they're allowed to write global laws on how to spray the sky and control the global temperature, that's it. You think getting rid of Obamacare was hard? Just wait till you try to get rid of geoengineering solar radiation management. And that's what I got to say about that. So please, guys, get over here, check out this stuff. It's at Weather Modification History, weathermodificationhistory.com. You can see that right here. Over at ClimateViewer.com. Of course, I am Jim Lee. Been fighting these geoengineering pricks since 2012. And I will continue to do so until we make it go away and it's illegal. So I hope you guys will get educated on this, educate others so that we can all, get out there and stop it, put a stop to it. I suggest that you get in touch with local business leaders in Tucson, local government in Tucson, the senator in Tucson, anybody in that area, and let them know that you highly disapprove of the idea of them coming down there and experimenting on this type of material. Let them know that even though it's safe, that it's a slippery slope to a weaponized world where all of our nature is controlled by corporate freaking pricks. There were globalists who want to, control rainfall worldwide. So guys, love you, mean it. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not.